Most people think blood sugar problems only matter if you already have diabetes. Something for other people to worry about, not you. But here's the thing. The real story is happening in almost everyone, quietly, every single morning, in the first 30 minutes after you wake up, and it's shaped by exactly one decision most people never think twice about: what you eat first. Let's talk about your blood sugar response, and specifically, something researchers call the first meal effect. Every time you eat, your blood sugar rises, and your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down. That's completely normal. But here's what most people don't realize. The very first meal you eat in the morning sets a kind of metabolic tone for how your body handles blood sugar for the rest of the day, including meals eaten hours later. Here's what happens as this system starts to break down, whether from age, poor sleep, stress, or just years of the wrong morning habits. Energy crashes an hour or two after breakfast, that heavy, sluggish feeling that makes you reach for coffee or something sugary just to function. Intense mid-morning cravings, even though you just ate. Brain fog that clears up temporarily after eating, only to return an hour later. Sound familiar? Most people blame this on just being tired or needing more caffeine, but a lot of it comes down to a blood sugar spike and crash cycle that started with breakfast and is quietly repeating itself every single day. Okay, here's the good news. This is one of the easiest systems in your entire body to influence, starting with a single, specific change tomorrow morning. Ready? Let's get into it. The key concept here is something called glycemic variability, basically how sharply your blood sugar spikes up and then crashes down after eating, versus rising and falling gently. Here's the analogy I like to use. Think of your blood sugar like the throttle on a car. A gentle press on the gas pedal gets you up to speed smoothly, no jolt, no strain on the engine. Slamming the pedal to the floor gets you there faster, but it's hard on the whole system. And eventually, something wears out faster than it should. Sharp blood sugar spikes are like slamming that pedal, over and over, meal after meal, year after year. Here's the mechanism, step by step. When you eat something high in refined carbohydrates, especially on an empty stomach with nothing to slow digestion down, glucose floods into your bloodstream quickly. Your pancreas responds with a large, fast burst of insulin to bring that sugar down. Because the insulin response is so large, blood sugar often overshoots on the way back down, dropping below your baseline. That drop is exactly what triggers the crash, the fog, and the cravings for something sugary to bring your blood sugar back up again. Now here's how this connects to long-term health, and to aging specifically. Doing this every single morning, day after day, keeps your pancreas working overtime, and over years, this repeated demand contributes to insulin resistance, the same mechanism behind stubborn belly fat, energy crashes, and eventually, for some people, type 2 diabetes. Research has also connected high glycemic variability with increased oxidative stress and inflammation throughout the cardiovascular system, tying this directly back into arterial aging as well. This is where food as medicine comes in, because it turns out the order and composition of your very first meal can dramatically blunt this entire spike and crash cycle. Let's go through the specific foods and strategies that work. Number 1, eggs. This one always surprises people because eggs got such a bad reputation for decades over cholesterol concerns that turned out to be far more nuanced than originally thought. The relevant factor here isn't a single named compound. It's the near-total absence of carbohydrates combined with a complete protein profile. Here's the mechanism. Protein and fat, unlike refined carbohydrates, produce a minimal, slow, gentle rise in blood sugar. Eating protein first thing in the morning also increases levels of a hormone called peptide YY, which promotes satiety, meaning you naturally eat less at your next meal without forcing restriction. Research has shown that a protein-forward breakfast, compared to a carbohydrate-heavy one, produces significantly less blood sugar variability across the entire day, not just right after breakfast. The dose used in most studies showing this benefit is about 2 to 3 whole eggs, providing roughly 15 to 20 grams of protein. My tip: pair your eggs with vegetables, like spinach or peppers, rather than toast or a bagel, at least on the days you're specifically trying to stabilize blood sugar. The combination keeps that first meal genuinely low glycemic. Number 2, chia seeds, specifically as an overnight pudding. This one surprises people because chia seeds look like a tiny, unremarkable seed, but they're one of the most concentrated sources of soluble fiber available. The active component is a specific type of fiber that forms a thick gel when combined with liquid. Here's what it does. That gel physically slows gastric emptying and slows glucose absorption in your intestine, flattening the blood sugar curve after eating. It also feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which produce compounds linked to improved insulin sensitivity over time. Studies have shown that consuming chia seeds alongside a carbohydrate-containing meal can significantly blunt the resulting blood sugar spike compared to the same meal without chia. The dose used in research is about 2 tablespoons, roughly 1 ounce, soaked in liquid overnight, which is enough to form that gel-like pudding texture. Tip: combine 2 tablespoons of chia seeds with a cup of unsweetened almond milk or Greek yogurt the night before, add a few berries in the morning, and you've got a genuinely low glycemic breakfast that requires 0 morning effort. Number 3. Apple cider vinegar, taken before your meal rather than in it. I mentioned this compound in another context before, but it deserves its own explanation here. Specifically for blood sugar timing, the active compound is acetic acid. Here's the mechanism. Acetic acid appears to partially inhibit an enzyme involved in breaking down starches into glucose in your digestive tract, and it also slows gastric emptying slightly, both of which reduce how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream after a carbohydrate-containing meal. Research has shown that consuming vinegar shortly before a meal can reduce the post-meal blood sugar spike by a meaningful percentage, in some studies comparable to certain effects seen with mild medication interventions. Though obviously vinegar is not a replacement for prescribed treatment. The dose studied is about 1 to 2 tablespoons, diluted in a large glass of water. Consume 10 to 20 minutes before your meal. Tip: always dilute it, and consider using a straw, since undiluted or frequently sipped vinegar can gradually erode tooth enamel over time. This is a habit best done consistently but carefully. Number 4. Cinnamon, specifically Ceylon cinnamon. This one is a personal favorite of mine because it's genuinely enjoyable, not just something you tolerate for health reasons. The active compound is a group of substances called methyl hydroxychalcone polymers, along with certain polyphenols unique to true cinnamon. Here's what they do. These compounds appear to enhance insulin receptor sensitivity, essentially making your cells more responsive to the insulin your pancreas is already producing, meaning you need less insulin to move the same amount of glucose into your cells. Research has shown that regular cinnamon intake is associated with modest improvements in fasting blood sugar and insulin sensitivity over several weeks of consistent use. The dose studied is typically about 1 to 2 grams daily, roughly half a teaspoon, of true Ceylon cinnamon. Tip: specifically look for Ceylon cinnamon rather than the more common cassia cinnamon found in most grocery store spice aisles. Cassia contains higher levels of a compound called coumarin, which isn't ideal in large regular amounts, while Ceylon is considered the safer choice for daily use. Number 5. Greek yogurt, plain and unsweetened. This one rounds out the list nicely, because it combines 2 mechanisms we've already discussed, protein content and gut-supportive compounds, into one simple food. The relevant factors are its high protein content, alongside live probiotic cultures. Here's the mechanism. The protein content slows gastric emptying and blunts blood sugar response, similar to the eggs we discussed earlier, while the probiotic cultures support a healthy gut microbiome, which research increasingly links to better overall insulin sensitivity through the production of beneficial, short-chain fatty acids. Studies have shown that yogurt consumption, particularly varieties with live active cultures, is associated with improved markers of insulin sensitivity over time, independent of weight change. The dose used in most research is about 1 cup, plain and unsweetened, since flavored varieties often contain enough added sugar to undo much of the benefit. Tip: if plain Greek yogurt is too tart for you, add a few berries and a small drizzle of that Ceylon cinnamon we just talked about, rather than reaching for a pre-sweetened version at the store. Now, if you're finding this helpful, this is exactly the kind of thing I like breaking down on this channel, taking apart what's actually happening in your body after you eat, not just generic diet advice. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, because there's a lot more of this coming. Let's talk about meal order for a second, because this is a genuinely underused strategy that costs you nothing extra. Research has shown that simply eating in a specific order, vegetables and protein first, carbohydrates last, within the same meal, can significantly reduce the resulting blood sugar spike, even when the total calories and food items are identical. The mechanism is straightforward. Fiber and protein consumed first slow the digestion and absorption of the carbohydrates that follow, essentially building a buffer before the sugar hits your bloodstream. So if your breakfast includes toast or fruit alongside eggs and vegetables, try eating the eggs and vegetables first and save the toast for last. It's a small adjustment, but the research behind it is surprisingly consistent. Let's also touch on movement, because a short walk after eating has one of the most immediate, measurable effects on blood sugar of anything we've discussed today. When your muscles are actively contracting, they can take up glucose from your bloodstream without even needing much insulin to do it, through a separate pathway entirely. Even a 10 to 15-minute walk after a meal has been shown in research to meaningfully reduce the resulting blood sugar spike compared to remaining sedentary. Let's talk timeline, because I want to be realistic here. Some of these strategies, particularly meal order and post-meal walking, produce effects you can feel within the very same day, less of that crash and fog feeling an hour after eating. Others, like consistent cinnamon intake or overall dietary pattern changes, tend to show measurable improvements in fasting blood sugar and insulin sensitivity over a period of several weeks to a couple of months of consistent use. This isn't a replacement for medical monitoring if you have diagnosed prediabetes or diabetes. These strategies work well alongside medical guidance, not instead of it, and if you're on any medication that affects blood sugar, talk to your doctor before making significant changes, since some of these approaches, particularly vinegar and cinnamon, can have an additive effect with certain medications. Let me answer a few common questions. First, do I need to cut out carbohydrates completely? No, and I wouldn't recommend that for most people long term. The goal here is managing the speed and size of the spike, not eliminating carbohydrates altogether. Pairing carbohydrates with protein, fiber, and healthy fats, and being mindful of meal order gets you most of the benefit without requiring an extreme approach. Second, is fruit bad for blood sugar? Whole fruit, eaten with its natural fiber intact, produces a much gentler blood sugar response than fruit juice, which lacks that fiber and delivers sugar much more quickly. Berries specifically tend to have a lower glycemic impact than tropical fruits like pineapple or watermelon, though all whole fruit is generally far better than juice or dried fruit with added sugar. Third, what if I'm not a breakfast person at all? That's completely fine. And intermittent fasting or skipping breakfast works well for many people. The principles we discussed today, meal order, protein-forward choices, vinegar before meals, still apply to whatever your first meal of the day happens to be, whether that's at 7 in the morning or at noon. So here's the bigger picture I want you to walk away with. This was never just about avoiding an afternoon slump. It's about a daily pattern, repeated meal after meal, that either keeps your blood sugar system running smoothly or keeps it slamming that throttle over and over, contributing to insulin resistance, inflammation, and accelerated aging throughout your entire cardiovascular and metabolic system. Eggs, chia pudding, vinegar before meals, Ceylon cinnamon, and plain Greek yogurt each work on a different piece of that same system, and even small changes, like meal order and a short walk after eating, add up significantly over time. If you want to go deeper, my next video breaks down exactly how blood sugar spikes connect to visible skin aging, and it's a connection almost nobody talks about. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. I'll see you in the next one.